I can tell you exactly what the source of the book was. This was, as unlike Straight Man, which gushed out of me. All those academic stories just came flowing out. Empire Falls was an exercise in parental dread. That's where that book was born. My daughters, at the time I started writing it, my daughters, Emily and Kate, were in, I think Emily was first year, was a freshman in high school, maybe. My daughter Kate would have been in 7th grade or 8th grade. They're 2 years apart. But they were at that age where they were doing exactly what you as a father or a parent would want them to do. You want them to grow up to be strong, independent women, but what that entails, of course, is that they begin to have private lives, right? You want that for them. And so it began to dawn on my wife and me both that the dinner table wasn't the same suddenly as it was 2 years before, where when the girls were a couple of years younger, we would talk about everything at the dinner table and their lives were an open book. And now suddenly their lives were more closed. They were more circumspect about what they told us. We began to understand that there were things that they would not share with us. Their deepest fears, their deepest anxieties. And at that age, my God, junior high school, when do we ever have more anxiety than we have in junior high school? And I remember looking, I was the one who was home more. My wife put in longer hours. She was the administrator in the music department at Colby College at that time. And I was the one who was home when our daughters would come home. And I would remember sometimes my older daughter, Emily, coming in, and I would hear the door slam and I would hear Emily scream at the top of her lungs, "My life sucks." And which would be alarming enough. But even more alarming than that was sometimes I would be downstairs and I would know that it was about the time that my younger daughter, Kate, would appear down a couple of blocks down. The high school, she used to walk home. The high school was only just a few blocks away. And I would know almost to the minute, when she was going to come around the corner from John's Market and head up towards our house. And she would be under this enormous book. Kids back then, they put all their books in their book packs. They didn't think at their locker about which books will I need tonight to do my homework. They put them all in there, and there were like 70 pounds of books or something like that in this enormous book, in this enormous backpack. And Kate would be bent forward as if into the wind with this enormous bag. She was already showing signs of scoliosis of the spine, but it was really the look on her face when there was something that was troubling her that had happened that day, and the weight that she was carrying seemed to be written on her face. It was becoming the weight that she was carrying was becoming metaphorical. And I began to be just frightened, just flat out scared that what I didn't know and probably could not know that there might be real serious consequences to that. And of course, I had been following since Columbine, the school shooting there. And before that, the one that I was really thinking about was the one in Paducah. Before that, that was the one that I was thinking about when I was contemplating Empire Falls and what was going to happen at the end of it. But that's the genesis of that book was simply parental dread. And so everything else grew out of that. All of my experience working in diners, the thing I knew that I was going to have to do is that I was going to have to trap Miles. I was going to have to trap him as completely as any human being has ever been trapped. I mean, he has to be basically a puppet. Mrs. Whiting has to be pulling all of his strings. And there has to be simply no escape. He thought at one point that maybe there would be, and now he knows the bitter truth that there is no out. And so he just has to do the impossible thing. He has to protect that child somehow or other. He has to make sure that even though he knows that there'll never be an escape for him, there has to be an escape for this child. That's Empire Falls in a nutshell, and everything else grew out. I mean, certain things that I was seeing outside my window. The Hathaway shirt factory in Waterville, Maine, where I was living, I would see those women leaving their jobs, walking across the bridge, all of that I was describing, the river that separated the people who lived on one side from people who lived on the other side. The Charlie Whiting, who believes that he can separate himself from the people who work in his mills by crossing the river. All of that was happening right outside my window. And it was just all there. It was just all there to be used.